I'd like to address the fact that they said recounts would be a really big hassle. First of all, it is true that the recounts would be a lot harder if it actually got to the point where we needed a recount, but it'd be way less likely to happen because the odds that the population election would be within slim enough margins of error is way smaller than the odds of a swing state that needs a recount. So when they mentioned Florida, like, that's way more probable to happen than when you're in a direct vote. And there's, like, I mean, the whole United States is voting. There's not going to be a little margin of error that's going to actually make a difference in the election. And if it does happen, it would be a very rare thing. In a direct vote, many more votes are needed to sway an election than in the current electoral system. That gives less incentive for fraud, actually, because it would take way more of a fraud to try and make the election change from one candidate to another. And also, since the recounts would be such a hassle, I feel like that people would count the votes a lot more carefully because of the fact that it's going to be a lot more difficult to recount them. But it just isn't as likely to happen as it is with the Electoral College. The point that they made about the third parties, third parties are already in existence today in present systems, and it might encourage a rise of third parties, but they are already in the system. Almost every one of other offices in the country is filled by direct election, and third parties play an extremely small role in these races. Also, there's a lot of social and legal obstacles blocking the rise of third parties. In the book Democracy Opposing Viewpoints, it stated that Democratic and Republican parties tend to be sprawling coalitions, thus voters have incentive to work within the system. The two main parties would most likely rally to their partisans and promote voter turnout, which would strengthen the two-party system in reality. And there's actually, most states have a law that limits third-party ballot access. So how they said there's going to be like 25 different candidates, that's not really true because there's lots of laws that limit the third-party access to the ballot. And then also how this whole dispute about large states and small states, it is about that to an extent with the Electoral College, but at the same time it's more about the principle that one person should have one vote. And if that's how it should be, that's what the American country is based on. So one person should have one vote. It shouldn't really be as big of a deal about the large states and small states and where the candidates are going to focus their attention. The example that my advocate used, that a minority president can still be elected in a direct election, is actually not true. How she said that 65% of people disapprove of a president. That's actually where plurality comes in, because we would have a 40% bar where the candidate must hit 40% approval before the candidate can be elected, and if neither of the candidates reach the 40% bar, then there'd be a runoff between the two closest candidates to the 40%. So realistically, in a direct vote, there wouldn't be a chance of the American people, not 65% of them not wanting a candidate and then them ending up winning. So, just kidding.